podcast. My name is Kareen and I am your host. The No Village Club is a space on the internet that I have created for mothers like myself who are navigating the journey of motherhood without their built-in village, their family, whether that's by choice or circumstance. In my instance, I am an American mom who is living in Australia, and I have done for the last 10 years. And I found that becoming a mother radically changed my relationship with living abroad. It has become much more apparent to me. I need a lot more support now as a mother than I did as someone who sort of moved abroad on a whim. So if that's you, this podcast is for you. Today, I'm getting into something that I've been wanting to talk about for a while. In the first episode of this podcast, I walked you through my journey postpartum and how I came to the point of asking myself the question, where is my village? And a lot has happened since then. I went on a journey of really developing my own framework when it comes to building my village. And that is actually what I'd like to share with you today. This is the real process that started with me just wanting to go from surviving in motherhood to actually finding real, tangible ways that I could feel supported in my motherhood journey and actually build a village where I am. This episode is actually the foundation for a whole series I'm building out here, where I'm going to deep dive into each category of village building, category by category. So consider this as sort of the map to the next few episodes. The future episodes are where we will talk the depth together. Before we jump into the contents of the episode, I wanted to make you aware of the No Village Club. The No Village Club is hosted on Substack. It's an online community completely free to subscribe. I have added some really fun resources and I'm going to continue to build out resources on that community. The community hosts the No Village Club group chat, where I will be dropping in reflection prompts and any news about the No Village Club. And it's also a place where you yourself can ask questions, offer feedback on the podcast episodes, share your thoughts, ask the group questions. I'm really thinking of the group chat as like a virtual village, a virtual meeting place for us all to talk and share resources and share ideas, because after all, that's what the village is for anyway. I've also created a list of resources within the No Village Club. I'm really excited about this. This is a curated collection, a list of books, podcasts, media, things that have actually been helpful for me in my journey of building a village. There are a few books that I've listed that have been really, really key for me. So I will leave the link to the village resources and the village chat in the show notes for you to check out on the No Village Club. Into how I think, because I think that will help explain the framework that I've created for building a village. If you split me as a human, I am probably 50% like feelings, woo-woo, spirituality, emotions, very Pisces. That's my moon sign if you're into astrology. And I have like a lot of Pisces in my chart. The other half of me and the other half of my chart basically is very Virgo. So I'm very systems, organization, processes, solution oriented. I am always trying to engineer my way through an emotional problem by way of frameworks and systems and organization. So when it came to like completely crashing out postpartum and realizing that I did not have the support that I needed in motherhood, I began to build this infrastructure of support, which is what I'm going to be sharing with you today. So if you're hearing this and thinking to yourself, God, this is a very systematic way of thinking through an emotional problem. Hi, nice to meet you. That is just who I am. And I hope that it's helpful. I hope that this way of thinking is helpful and can provide you with at least some inspiration as to how you can approach your own process of building a village. So what do I actually mean when I talk about the village? village because I think it's worth defining. To me, the village is a communal environment or a lifestyle where there are shared resources, wisdom, time, affection, comfort, materials. It's people showing up for each other in the everyday, not just in crisis, not just on occasion. It's really the opposite of the system that so many of us mothers find ourselves in these days, where we're highly isolated. We're expected to do this largely alone. And it can make us feel like asking for help is a failure and not a natural part of taking care of an entire human being. And I want to take you back to those moments when I myself realized that I was extremely isolated in motherhood. I actually ended up documenting the beginnings of this whole thought process of building a village on a YouTube vlog. For context, my husband and I own a small business together, and that is our work. So I work from home, and my husband runs the day to day operations of the business. That means I'm able to stay home with our son. However, what you'll hear in the clips is that I was finding that to be extremely isolating and overall not enough of a supportive structure for the kind of motherhood journey that I was wanting. And I think these clips set up really well the headspace that I was in before I sort of went about trying to actively build a village through the framework that I will get into. So have a listen. I'm also going to do some more thinking about like the kind of balance that I want throughout my weeks and come up with sort of like a routine or a schedule to base my weeks on, because I feel like the problem with my schedule and the way that we have been doing things is that our schedule is this. Andy is full-time work. His schedule is Tuesday through Saturday. He has his art practice and we have a small business that he operates daily. And then I basically go into full-time mom mode Tuesday through Saturday and try to like work in kind of the nooks and crannies of our days and nights. I basically just have Tuesday through Saturday blocked off for like mom time, and then I'm kind of fitting in work before Andy goes to work and after he gets home. And I don't like that schedule anymore. It's intimidating for me to go into 5 days straight of mothering. I find myself emotionally depleted by the end of the day. Andy comes home and I just kind of like pass him the baby, and I don't like that I feel that way about mothering. I want to feel a little bit more recharged. This whole process for me is just about how can I make my life more enjoyable? How can I make my life feel fulfilling rather than draining? And obviously, I'm at a stage of life where it is exhausting, it is tiring, but I really do want to not feel drained every day, because I know that that just makes my nervous system so tapped. I don't want to be working off of an empty battery. So my thought process for this was I wanted to identify areas of like tension or friction or just general unhappiness, areas that didn't feel easeful, areas that didn't feel nice. I'm looking forward to taking my life into my own hands and being responsible for my own happiness and showing up for other people, showing up for myself, showing up for my son. The most important thing to me is that I'm able to enjoy time as myself and feel restored and like content in myself, so that I can like be fully present with my son, fully be with him and fully enjoy being with him without wishing that I was maybe somewhere else or doing something else. I'm also hoping that it means that I am not feeling so drained at the end of the day, that I'm feeling like my cup kind of runs over day to day and I'm not feeling so tapped. I remember feeling so conflicted inside because I was like, I'm enjoying this so much. I love my son, but This is the most draining experience of my life. And I wanted to feel fulfilled. I wanted my motherhood experience to feel dynamic and fun and fulfilling. I didn't want it to feel draining. So I went through this process where I started to reverse engineer the problems that I was having in the areas of my life that felt draining. And the moment that I realized that the way that I was feeling wasn't an indication of me failing or being a bad mom, it was indicative of the lack of support and tools that I might find in a village. And that I really needed to build out an infrastructure of support within my motherhood journey to make it fulfilling, to make it dynamic, to make it something that was edifying as opposed to draining. So let's jump into the framework. Step one of building my village really started with assessing and acknowledging what I was feeling. The first thing I did was just sit with all of my feelings honestly, not fixing anything, not pushing through anything, just naming it. If I'm honest, I was feeling really angry, but I think behind the anger was depletion. I was lonely. I was carrying way too much without sufficient relief. I felt the distance from my family more acutely than I ever had before. And that was a really overwhelming sensation. And I think I was also spending a lot of energy just hoping that the support would come to me rather than going after it myself, which of course built a lot of resentment, particularly toward my husband. So, naming those feelings honestly was the first step that I took toward figuring out what it was that I needed within my village. The next step was identifying what was actually within my control. I could not change the fact that my family was on the other side of the world and I couldn't manufacture a village overnight. I really went on to try to identify, okay, what's within my control? What can I actually change about myself, about my direct environment, about my day-to-day schedule, my day-to-day routine? What are the things that are within my control that I actually have power over changing? So, what was actually within my control? How I structured my week and protected time for myself, whether I accepted help when it was offered, whether I invested in paid support, whether I was proactively building community or just waiting for it to come to me, how honest I was being with people around me and what I actually needed, and how much I was pouring into other people versus filling my own cup first. Once I was honest about what I was feeling and really clear on what was within my control to change, I sat down and wrote a checklist. This checklist was effectively a wish list. I sat down and thought through, what are the things that are actually draining me? What is actually making me feel depleted within myself, not within other people, not within my environment that I had no control over, but what were things within my control that were contributing to the feeling of depletion? And this is the part that I loved the most and that I found actually made me feel empowered because I felt like I now had a task or a project and something I could actually chip away at making my motherhood experience better. And everything that I wrote on the checklist had to answer the question of what would a genuinely supported motherhood journey actually look like for me specifically. And of course, I'm going to share with you the things that were on that list. For me, it looked like personal time that was not contingent on my husband being home, space in my week that wasn't wall to wall mom mode, daily non negotiables that really protected and looked after my nervous system, creative work and projects that were mine, just mine, community that I had built with intention, less mental load around housework and life admin, and a family business structure that supported rather than fragmented our daily life. That wish list since then has been my roadmap to building a village where I am. My son is growing. My needs are constantly shifting. Our circumstances are constantly evolving. If we have another child, I'm sure I will have to go through some version of this and reframe it again and again and again to reassess, acknowledge how I'm feeling, and adjust accordingly. Because we've applied this framework, my husband and I now, it's become a habit for us to check in on like, how fulfilled and happy are you? Like, how fulfilled and happy are you? And of course, there's going to be times in life when, you have temporary moments. But I think when it comes to long-standingly feeling unfulfilled and unhappy, that's when things need to adjust. That's when you need more support. That's when you need the support, the wisdom, the time, the resources of a village. So that's my framework. Assess and acknowledge how you're feeling, identify what's within your control, and build out your village from there, and then come back to it. I think this framework is really simple and I love that. But sitting with your feelings honestly can be really hard before jumping into the systems. And I think that's the part that most of us skip, is truly getting down to the granular detail of how you're feeling and the truest expression of how you're feeling. For me, I had a lot of anger, but really on a deeper level, the anger was depletion. It was isolation. It was loneliness. It was needing more resources as a mother. It's really important to acknowledge the emotional damage that not having a village in motherhood is causing in your life, but always to come back to what's within your control. What can you change? What do you need? And really build out this wish list of like, what would your village look like? So, in the next episode, I'm going to get into the specifics of what this practice has looked like for me and the specific changes that I have made across my routine, my connection with my community, and the systems of support that we have in our life that support my motherhood journey. If this episode resonated with you, I would absolutely love to hear from you in our village chat, or feel free to send me a DM on Instagram or TikTok as well. This episode of the No Village Club podcast was recorded on Wajak Noongar land in Perth, Western Australia. I acknowledge the Wajak Noongar people as the traditional custodians of this land and pay my respects to their elders, past, present, and emerging. I would also like to thank the village that I am building out for making this episode possible. There are therapists and mentors and women and mothers and sisters in my life who have made my motherhood journey what it is today and made it possible for me to build a better experience for myself. If you've made it this far, I would love if you could leave a review and let me know what you think of the podcast. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode.